Hey there, Kevin Negandhi, ESPN anchor, alongside the co-founder of StockX, that is Josh Luber. We're here to talk about cards, culture, and the hobby. And look at you representing as we get ready for the playoffs a couple weeks away. I knew you were going to bring your jersey. I knew it. So I brought a little firepower on both sides. But what number are you wearing?
21.
Indeed.
You know, we're talking about today's superstars. We're talking about the players who are on the rise, potential MVP candidates, who's going to make a dent in the playoffs. I mean, it's got to be Embiid.
When we talk about stars, it feels like when you look at the NBA, we're a couple weeks away from the playoffs. I feel like hopefully for the hobby, the conversation will pick up even more when we look at cards prices rising, right? Because we saw it in the bubble, something that I think everybody experienced, like, whoa, especially with the big stars like LeBron James. And his conversation with KD, I think, is a little separate matter here in what we're doing. We're talking about current NBA stars that are entering their prime or in their prime. First off, I'm stunned at the way the market is right now, specifically surrounding Zion. And I bring up Zion with Luka because you look at the pop when it comes to the PSA 10, and that is the base prism of their rookies. We're in the 16,000 range when it comes to population. And these guys are having really good seasons, especially Zion, yet we're not seeing any bump here when it comes to price points in this conversation over the last month.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that I think this is partly a function of just an industry-wide change in how the hobby and how prices react to performance. A year and a half ago, you know, a guy would go off and have a 45-point game, and everybody would be on eBay, you know, while it's going on. And by the end of the game, you know, his cards are up, 10, 15%. I think partly because there's so much more money has come in the hobby that not as many people are actually paying attention game by game. But I think more than anything, it's just that shift that we've seen over the last 6 months now to vintage, to all-timers, to the LeBrons and Kobe's and Wilt and Russell and Magic. And with so much money moving there, people are saying, well, does it really matter that Tatum dropped 60 the other night? Like, does that change what I think of him as potentially being an all-time great? Because that's why I'm buying his card now or I'm not. And so for Luka and Zion, I think people have sort of made up their mind and said, hey, look, we think that they're this good as a long-term potential. And if Zion goes on a run and has, you know, the play that he's had for the past couple months, I don't think it's really changing people's perception of what they think his long-term potential is. And that's what I think people are paying for cards right now.
And you make a great point. How do we view all-time greats? And then also the state of what they've done. I bring up Giannis. Yep. And you look at Giannis's track record. He is trending to be an all-time great. But then, you know, at one point he's peaking at $8,000 in the bubble. The Bucks fall apart inside the bubble as the 1 seed. You've got a 2-time MVP. And now he's less than $2,800 when we talk about that PSA 10 base rookie card. And you start scratching your head and you're like, there's value right now, especially how well he's played of late. And people are sleeping on the Bucks.
Yep. Well, look, I mean, you're way closer to the day-to-day of the NBA and everyone else. Has Giannis's all-time potential changed in your mind, given the way they went out in the playoffs, the fact that he signed in Milwaukee? I mean, is his all-time potential changed?
It has changed to a certain point on the narrative. Specifically, can he guide his team and carry them in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
In the last 2 years, they've fallen off flat. And then, again, he stayed in Milwaukee. You know, well, there were other possibilities of going to other cities, Josh.
Yep, for sure. Well, I think that is the question for all of these guys. So let's run down them, right? So is Luka an all-time great?
I think so. I think he has potential to be an all-time great. Well, and I think we're going to say potential on many of these things.
Well,
he has yet to reach his peak, right?
You're gambling on this, right? Saying we're going to pay $1,000 for a Luka rookie. Do I think he's going to be in the same group with Kobe and LeBron and Jordan? Like I do. Like he certainly, like barring injury and everything else, like he looks at just absolutely like he's in that category. And that might be the easiest of all of the guys we talk about.
Yep.
Right? So what about Zion? Is Zion an all-time great?
Zion is such a tricky thing here, Josh, because I think when we're talking about these all-time guys, he's a unicorn, size-wise and what he can do.
Yeah.
I think everybody's just worried about his health, and that would probably be the same conversation we'll have with Embiid later on here.
is Jason Tatum an all-timer?
Oh man, and this is tough for you and me to
And
swallow
Sixers,
because yes,
we'll be
exactly.
objective in this version.
Totally, because I love the kid. I think he has so much potential, but it feels like while he's playing well, the Celtics have disappointed a lot of people on where they're at right now and the progress of him and Jaylen Brown, even though I think Brown's super underrated in the market. But then we get to the same conversation with Devin Booker, and I actually think that he is going to go next level. And one of the factors is I think Phoenix is on the rise, and I think he's on the cusp of not even maybe a couple years from his prime. He's on the cusp of superstardom. Right. And then how we view a Booker card, which is around like $850 compared to a Tatum card, which is around like what, that $600 range. It's fascinating to me, different pop, but it's fascinating because those two guys are very comparable on talent-wise and their production.
But if you had both of these guys, and I think this is what you're saying, and I agree. If you had Booker and Tatum and they were on the same team or they're both in a vacuum, you still think that Booker has a higher potential to be an all-time great, just his game, his makeup. He's dating Kendall Jenner. Well, I don't know which way that cuts. But,
exactly.
But at least I got it in the show. Though, like, Booker still has greater potential to be there. Is that right?
I'm with you. I think Booker has a better potential at this point in their careers if we're in that specific vacuum. And then let's get to the conversation because this is specific guards, right? And many times guards dictate the market and their success. How about two centers and what they've done in the last year in the MVP conversation? That is Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. Your thoughts on the trend that we are seeing as they are breaking from everybody else on the graph?
Well, that's right. So just about every current superstar, guys who are not in the pantheon of all-timers, and I put Curry and KD and LeBron in that category, just about every other person had this massive run up in August, September. Their cards have come back down and have stayed like that. So the graphs look like this. Two people are different. Jokic and Embiid look like this over the past year. Over the past year, Embiid a year ago, his PSA 10 Prism card was about $100. It's now about $650, closing in on $700. Right? Is Embiid an all-time great?
Yes. He's a unicorn.
So it's so easy when you have two Philadelphia fans here, talk. Yes, of course he's an all-time great. But I think he's got the same risk profile that Zion does, right?
100%. Absolutely agree. Because we're seeing Joel maximize health-wise this year for the first time, and now he's in the MVP conversation on the defense and the offensive side. But I also, this is us being very candid. We're not just homers here. I feel the same way about Jokic. And centers have been wildly undervalued, all-time greats. If you look at Shaq, I still think it's super undervalued. Hakeem Olajuwon, those specific cards, I think that those are still steals long-term. When we talk about the short term and this draft class, there's only one guy that's headlining everything. How do you view the investment and the concept of Lamelo Ball and his future?
Oh, wait, sorry.
No. And is Lamelo, and this coincides too with the Hornets in the playoff conversation and him returning back. How do you view him?
Yeah, well, interesting note on this. So about a week and a half ago, I had this idea. I was like, with PSA shut down, there's a ton of great condition cards that people are just sitting on. So I started buying up a lot of LaMelo Prism Silvers on eBay. And a week and a half ago, I was getting them for about $500, $525. And now that he's come back 2 nights ago, man, I'm losing auctions at $750 on that card, right? So, and I still think it's a steal if you just look at the way that PSA 10 silvers, have moved in the market and demand for that. And with all the demand around LaMelo, he just has there's so much demand around him because of how special he might be. But again, to the point of our conversation, like, man, it is way too early to even I'm not even going to ask you the question of whether LaMelo is an all-time great. Like, he's just a fun guy to watch right now, and we'll leave it at that.
Thank you for not asking. But I also think that if he does make the playoffs, and they're exciting in that play-in, and right now, as we're talking, potentially facing the Celtics, and they do something, my goodness, I can see that card skyrocketing those silvers that you invested in.
This is the point, right? Is that because the rookies today, there's so much less information about them. Their cards actually are more dependent on their performance game to game. It changes people's perception because they're still trying to get there. And just as an all-time great interviewer, like, I think Anthony Edwards is going to be top of the
He is up there. That, no doubt about that. Like, if he succeeds more and more, you're going to see him at the podium and those quotes on SportsCenter every single day.
I'm just saying, I think that's good for cards. I think having guys out there that are fun to talk to are good for cards. And, maybe dunk of the year. So put that on as well.
And and I know success in the playoffs will be very good for the cards. And that's why we're talking about these guys. Let's hope that we see a lot of success with all these guys in creating the buzz back in the NBA that we saw die down in about February. Before we go, I think the audience needs to see some fire. You've got something?
Yeah, well, I'm so lucky that I bought this back when I did. This is my all-time favorite Embiid. It's a rookie gold auto, number to 10, PSA 10 Embiid. I mean, I paid so little for this compared to what it's worth today because I bought it back at the end of 2019. And this is what happens when you buy the players you like. Centers weren't everything we just talked about, right? This card was not that valuable at the time, but I'm a huge Embiid fan and a Sixers fan. And so now, look, I'm never selling the card, so don't ask, right?
I will ask. Repeatedly.
I know you will. But that's all good. But look, that's a fun part of the hobby, to have a card like that is it's just massive. And,
really, really cool and shiny. And again, Luber, you win. Thanks a lot. Hey, and listen, for our audience, if you have a specific show idea that you want us to talk about and chop it up here, go to the comment section on the YouTube page and weigh in. And also, if you have ideas on how I can get that card from Luber, also let me know, all right? Because I'm open to all of it, all right?
We'll switch. I'll start hosting SportsCenter, and you come and take over my Embiid collection. How about that?
If that gets me around all those kicks and I can break open all those packs, heck yeah, for a day. We'll do that. No doubt about it. All right,
I'm sure the powers that be at ESPN would love that.
Stay healthy, stay safe. Appreciate it. Till next time.
Thanks, man. Yeah.